Hello everyone, how are you? Hello Rania, how are you? I hope everyone is doing good and I hope you're prepared for a lesson with me. I'm sorry for being late. We had some technical problems. Okay, let's start. So today's session would be about Unit 4, Life Issues. Okay. Hi, Muhammad Ali. So today's session would be about Unit 4, Life Issues, and I will try to cover the most of it. Okay, let's start. We will start with a reading passage. So I will read to you this passage, and then we will cover the comprehension question. Whenever you have a test, an exam, it's preferred to, or it's better to read the comprehension question first and then go back to the text and read it so that you can, which part to focus on and which part to dismiss. So let's try to read the comprehension questions together. We have the first one, as usual, tick the right option. The text is mainly about a woman who either left the city in order to turn her life meaningful, sacrificed her job because she hates city life, had a difficult life in the city but couldn't leave. Okay, this is the first one. Then we have, for each of the following statements, pick out one detail from the text showing that it is false. Okay, a detail from the text, so you don't need to write a sentence from your mind, so it's not your own words. It's a detail from the text. Pick a line. Of course, if it asks you to pick a detail from the text, you have to put it between columns. So first, in London, Jane never faced money difficulties. This is false, and the correct statement is in paragraph 1, as mentioned. Second, Jane was ready to devote her life to her job, and the correct statement is in paragraph 2. And Jane would love to move back to London and live there. This is false as usual, and the correct answer would be in paragraph 4. Then we have, what do the underlined words in the text refer to? We would always have this kind of question. Those in paragraph 1 and it's in paragraph 4, you need to just look at them in the text and find out what do they refer to. It can be before or after, and then find in the text word or expressions meaning nearly the same as boring and sympathy. So boring in paragraph 2, you can look at it while I read, and sympathy in paragraph 3, same. Okay, normally that's it. Finally, you have to give a personal justified answer to the following question. If you give only your personal view, that wouldn't be taken into consideration. This is a source of grade. So whenever you have this kind of question, do not forget to give the reason for which you have such opinion. Okay, so your opinion and then the reason, so that you can have the full mark. Okay, that's it with the questions. Let's go back and read now. I left London 2 years ago after I reached a crossroad in my life that felt pretty critical. I had been living in Hackney for about 10 years and working as a freelance for fashion magazines for nearly 8 of those. Everything was dedicated to continue on the same path that I had imagined. Each month was full of dramatic high and lows. Traveling to exotic places, interviewing amazing people, and struggling to make ends meet. Going to the office every day from 9 to 5 felt stale and stressful. Whenever I asked those around me, "How are you?" the answer came back predictably, "Quite busy, Jane." I felt overwhelmed, sad, and hopeless. I enjoyed my work, but I didn't want to die for it. So I abandoned that life, that home, that job, and that future to return to my roots in the countryside. My first job here was working in a small community hospital in Leominster. My duties consisted mainly of nursing patients suffering from Alzheimer or terminal illnesses. One day, as I was listening to a man struggling to inflate and deflate his lungs, I felt deeply connected to my patient and his need for dignity in his final hours. I suddenly felt a whole new level of affinity with the job I had chosen to sacrifice so much in favor of. When I lived in London, every weekend was spent pushing my body to the max. Now I enjoy my nights out in local pubs where people chat about life rather than work. I still keep in touch with my London friends. Conversations briefly touch on WhatsApp, on what I am up to, and how I spent my time. I still sometimes visit Hackney to remember the energy, the freedom, and the vibrancy that the city inspires. Yet London was a journey, and mine ended at the right point. In Leominster, I realized that each 24-hour period deserves its own opportunity and not be spent recovering from something old and ugly. Okay, this is the text. This is paragraph 1, paragraph 2, 3, and finally paragraph 4. Now that we've read the text, so of course you need to read it once or twice. That would be perfect to read it twice, and then hit the reading comprehension. The first one, tick the right option. Is the text mainly about a woman who left the city in order to turn her life meaningful, sacrificed her job because she hates city life, or had a difficult life in the city but couldn't leave? Yes, Rania. Yes, Rania, you raised your hand.
The text is mainly about a woman who had a difficult life in the city, but couldn't leave.
She did leave.
Did
Listen.
leave.
Yes, she left. Listen. So she said that, to summarize, she said that I wouldn't sacrifice my life for such a job, so I want to go back to my roots. Where to my roots? In the countryside. So she did leave the city. So think again, if it's not had a difficult life in the city but couldn't leave, which one is the correct one, A or B?
A.
Very good. Yes, she left the city in order to turn her life
Left,
meaningful.
left the city in order to turn her life.
Yes, meaningful. Very good. Thank you. And yes, exactly. And if they ask you in the test to tick, you need to tick. Okay? Don't circle or whatever. Tick. Okay? Always try to do as you told in the questions, of course, of the test. Okay, let's move on. For each of the following statements, pick out one detail from the text showing that it is false. Okay, so if we say in London, Jane never faced money difficulties, it's not correct. The correct statement would be in paragraph 1. So you would find an information in paragraph 1 that tells you that Jane faced money difficulties. Let's go back to paragraph 1 and search for it. So this is paragraph 1. Okay, so here in these 5 lines, where does Jane say that she had money difficulties or she struggled financially? Let me reread paragraph 1. I left London 2 years ago after I reached a crossroad in my life that felt pretty critical. I had been living in Hackney for about 10 years and working as a freelance for fashion magazines for nearly 8 of those. Everything was dedicated to continuing on the same path that I had imagined. Each month was full of dramatic high and lows, traveling to exotic places, interviewing amazing people, and struggling to make ends meet. So yes, it's here, struggling to make ends meet. What does this expression mean? Make ends meet. What does this mean? It means to have enough money to live on. Okay, to have enough money to live on, to have enough money, okay? Make ends meet, to get through the month if you want. So this is the correct statement, which is in line 5. Of course, if you have a test, you would need to write it like this. And struggling. Let me choose another one. If you have a test, you need to write the whole sentence, meaning you would need to write from the beginning of the sentence till the end. But mainly, you need to know that this is the sentence that corrects it. Okay? It starts from struggling. Okay, this is 1. So this is in line 3. What about the second one? B. Jane was ready to devote her life to her job. This is not correct, of course. Jane wasn't ready to devote her life or sacrifice her life to her job. What's the correct statement that says that she wasn't ready to sacrifice her life to the job? In here, in paragraph 2. Let me reread it again. Going to the office every day from 9 to 5 felt stale and stressful. Whenever I asked those around me, "How are you?" the answer came back predictably, "Quite busy, Jane." I felt overwhelmed, sad, and hopeless. I enjoyed my work, but I didn't want to die for it. So I abandoned that life, that home, that job, and that future to return to my roots in the countryside. So which sentence here shows that she wasn't ready to sacrifice her life for the job? It's in here. I enjoyed my work, but, okay, I didn't want to die for it. So she wasn't prepared to die for her work, for her job. As usual, we put quotation marks. Don't forget quotation marks if they ask you to bring a detail from the text. So she said, I enjoyed my work, but what? She didn't want to die for it, but I didn't want to die for it. I'm not ready to sacrifice my life for my job. Okay, C. The third sentence, Jane would love to move back to London and live there. Of course, this is not correct. She wouldn't like to move back to London. She fled London, okay? Fled. She went to the countryside. She doesn't want to live in London anymore. She doesn't want to move back to London and live there. What's the sentence that in paragraph 4 that shows that she doesn't want to go back to London? Let me reread paragraph 4. When I lived in London, every weekend was spent pushing my body to the max. Now I enjoy my nights out in local pubs where people chat about life rather than work. I still keep in touch with my London friends. Conversations briefly touch on what I'm up to and how I spend my time. I still sometimes visit Hackney to remember the energy, the freedom, and the vibrancy that the city inspires. Yet, London was a journey, and mine ended at the right point. In Leominster, I realized that each time 4-hour period deserves its 24-hour period deserves its own opportunity, not be spent recovering from something old and ugly. So what's a sentence here that shows that Jane doesn't want to go back to London and isn't thinking about it even? Okay, if you look here, Jane said that, yet London was a journey and mine ended at the right point. So she's not intending to go back to London. She doesn't want to. Okay? And this is the statement or the detail from the text. London was a journey. Let me rewrite journey. And mine ended at the right point. Okay? And that's a sentence or detail from the text, or these are details from the text that correct such false statements. Now, let's continue. The following questions that you can have are these two. Either you need to know which words do these or to which does these words refer to. And the second one, you need to find some synonyms or antonyms from the text. So what do the underlined words in the text refer to? Those in paragraph 1 refers to what or to who? In paragraph 1, here it is, those. What does those refer to? You read the sentence that contains those, or the sentence before or after it. Let's read the sentence. I had been living in Hackney for about 10 years and working as a freelance for fashion magazines for nearly 8 of those. So what is those? Eight of those. 8 of what? 8 of those 10 years. All right. 8 of those 10 years. 8 of those. What does those refer to? The 10 years. Which 10 years? The 10 years she had spent in Hackney. Let me write Hackney is a place, so we need to capitalize it. Okay. Now it's in paragraph 4. What does it refer to? Let's see. What is it? Here it is. Over here, it's not highlighted, so let's do that ourselves. Deserve, it's in Leominster, I realized that each 24-hour period deserves its own opportunity and not be spent recovering from something old and ugly. So what does it refer to? What do you think it's referred to? It refers to each 24-hour period. It refers to that. So it refers to each 24-hour period. Okay, let's move back and move to the next question. Find in the text word or expressions meaning nearly the same as boring or sympathy. Boring in paragraph 2. Let's find a word that means boring. Over here. Try to find out with me. Going to the office every day from 9 to 5 felt stale and stressful. If you are searching for an adjective, you'll need an adjective. If you are searching for a noun, you will need a noun. If you are searching for a verb, same thing, a verb. So each time that in a test, it is asked from you to get a synonym or a word that means the same as another word, you need to search for the same form of that word, okay? Here, the word that means boring is stale. Stale means boring. Okay. Sympathy now. In paragraph 3. Try to find out a word that means sympathy. So, sympathy is not an adjective. It's a noun, so you need a noun here. And another word for sympathy is affinity. So I suddenly felt a whole new level of affinity or of sympathy with the job I had chosen to sacrifice so much in favor of. Okay, very good. Now let's move on. Give a personal and justified answer to the following question. If you were Jane, would you leave the city with all its attractions to settle in the countryside? So put yourself in the shoes of Jane. She was so stressed out, so anxious about her job. She felt so stressful, so bored, etc. So stressed and so bored, sorry. The job felt stressful and boring. If you had such conditions, you were so stressed, you felt a little bored, anxious, etc., and you felt like you would die in a place, would you leave the countryside, knowing that you wouldn't find all what you find in the city? So would you leave the city, sorry, with its attractions, with everything that you find, like malls and a lot of places to go to visit, to go to the countryside where you wouldn't find a lot of what you find in a city? So would you leave the city? One, give your opinion. So this cannot be wrong, except if you don't give the reason for your opinion, okay? You need to give your opinion and the reason why. It cannot be wrong, as I said. It has to be right, since it's your opinion, so we have to respect it. For instance, your opinion can be, I would not leave the city despite the anxiety, etc. I would not leave the city because I believe that the right opportunity, see, because. So afterwards, you give the reason, okay, for your opinion. Because I believe that the right opportunity that pushed me to stay there is coming, and life is about taking those chances. Okay? Let me write this example. I stress out again and again the fact that you need to always mention the reason, okay? Always mention the reason. Why or why not, sorry. So the reason. Don't forget to mention the reason for your opinion. So one, you start with your opinion plus the reason behind it or the reason for it, okay? So your opinion and its reason or reasons, whatever. So I would not leave the city because I believe that, or I think that, or in my opinion, let me rewrite that, that is missing an E. I believe that the right opportunity that pushed me to stay is coming. And life is about what? Taking chances and taking risks, right? And life is about taking those chances. So first I started with my opinion, which is I would not leave the city. I could have chosen I would have left the city as Jane did. And then don't forget to give the reason for it. So why? Because I believe the right opportunity that pushed me to stay is coming, and life is about taking those chances or taking risks, etc. Okay? Okay, let's move on to language or grammar. What did you have in Unit 4? Do you remember? We'll try to cover it this session. So take a look at these sentences and tell me what's the difference between sentence number 1 or sentences in the first column and the second one. John wrote the letter and the letter was written by John. And someone has stolen my car or my car has been stolen. Okay, first of all, let's take a look at the verbs, wrote, and here it's was written. Here we have has stolen, and here we have has been stolen. That's one. Second difference is that here the subject, we have the subject, here we have the object, here we have the object, we started with the object, and here we have the subject. Same thing. He's someone, so we didn't include it. We could have said my car has been stolen by someone, but since we don't know who, so it's okay not to. And this is not obligatory. You could have said the letter was written, and that's about it. Here, as usual, so someone is the subject. We don't know who. And my car is the object. Here we started with the object, and we don't have any subject over here. So because we don't know who. What's this? John wrote the letter and the letter was written by John. This is, let me write it in another color. This is the active form. And this is the passive form. Let me rewrite that. Passive and active, what's that? The active is the normal form, the normal tense, or normal sentences. So we have subject, verb, object, something or someone has done or did something. For the passive form is when we want to say that something has been done. We want to report that an action was done by someone else, or we can omit or delete who did the action. Sometimes we can use it. Why? We can use it to say that, or to when we don't know who did the action. So we just say that something has been done or something was done, etc. You can say, or you can mention, or you can just question, how can we form the passive form or the passive voice, if you want, that's better. Passive voice and active voice. It's pretty simple. From the active to the passive. This is in the past simple. Bear with me. Okay. This is was written. In which tense is this? Always the verb to be, the passive voice is normally the verb to be plus past participle. Of course, the past participle doesn't change. It's the verb to be that changes. And in which tense would we put the verb to be? This is was in the past simple, and this is has been in the present perfect. Here, we took a look at the verb in the active voice, okay? And we put to be in it. So to be takes what? It is in the tense. It's in the tense of the active verb or of the verb in the active voice. Okay? To be is always in the tense of the verb in the active voice. Plus the past participle, it's either verb plus ed or it can be irregular, so you need to know it by heart. Okay? Okay, same thing over here. You have has stolen is in which tense? Let's see. It's in the present perfect, which is have plus past participle, have or has, of course, huh? And let's take a look at this. Has been, which tense is it in? Very good. It's in the present perfect. This is in the past simple as the active verb, wrote, was. Has stolen, present perfect. Has been, present perfect. Plus the past participle. Here it's irregular, and that's why it ends in en or n. Okay? We make the passive using to be in the suitable tense. Let's re-say that just to re-mention it, just for you to understand Which suitable tense? It is in the, as we said, in the tense of the verb in the active voice or of the active voice. If you don't have the active voice, then we would say which tense would be. Well, you need to find a signal word, or you need to find a date, or you need to find out from the context. Okay, normally that would be a paragraph, so that would be more understandable, not separate sentences. So, for instance, salad as a starter. This is a fact, okay? And what do we use for facts? If we have facts, information, okay, info, we use the present simple. If we use the present simple for that, so it means that only the verb to be would be in the present simple. Is plus the past participle, which is the past participle of eat, is eaten. It's an irregular verb. Eat, ate, eaten. Okay? Let's see the second one. The city already evacuated. We said that we either take a look at the context or the use, or we can see some signal words so you can know which tense to use, or some dates. Here we have already. Do you know what already is used with which tense? With which tense is already used? It's used with the present. What? Can you know which tense is it used for? With, sorry. It's used with the present perfect. So you need to put, if you don't have an auxiliary, you put the adverb already after the verb. If you have an auxiliary, you need to put it in the between the auxiliary and the past participle, or any other verb, or verb plus ing, whatever. So just after the auxiliary. Okay? So that would be has. Then you put the adverb. Here we have already, we have other adverbs that are used with the present perfect. And then, of course, we're only talking about the verb to be, because evacuate would be in the past participle form, which is a regular verb, so it would be plus ed, evacuated. The city has already been evacuated. Okay? Next, the Great Wall of China built by 300,000 soldiers. What is this? This is something that happened in the past. So we would put the verb to be in its past simple form, which is was, because Great Wall of China is singular, plus the past participle of build, which is built. So as its past simple, then when I arrived at the party, food, here I'm telling a story that happened in the past. I said I arrived. So if I'm telling something that occurred in the past, took a long time to occur, or when I say an action was happening and then another action stopped it. The first action that stopped it is me arriving. So we put that in the past simple. The action that was happening or took place and was continuous, we put it in the present, past, because it's in past. Past continuous. That's how we use the past continuous, okay, or progressive. An action that stopped, another action that was happening. So the action that was happening is past continuous, and the action that stopped it is the past simple. So if it's in the past continuous, it means that the verb to be is in the past continuous. So what would we say here? By the way, this is the only time that we can use the past or present or whatever tense, continuous tense, with the verb to be. Normally, we can't use the continuous tense with the verb to be, but in the passive voice, we can use the verb to be in the continuous form. Okay, so was being, past continuous. And of course, past participle of serve, it's an irregular verb, so was being served. Then, this building, soon. Soon, so it will happen in the future. This means it's in the future. So the verb to be would be in the future. Will be, will plus the bare infinitive of the verb, plus of course the past participle of sell, which is sold. It's the same as its past simple. Okay, one point to mention is that you can use by as you can just omit it, okay? If we want to show the person or thing doing the action or has done or who has done the action or which has done the action, we use by. For instance, we can say the Da Vinci Code was written. So here what's important is the action. If we want to say who did the action, we would say the Da Vinci Code was written by Dan Brown, okay? And that's how or when we add by. Same thing, the window was broken. This here, the action is important, okay? So the window is broken. What happened? The window was broken. But who did it? Now, if you want to say or know who did the action, we would add by. And who did it? The kids here. The window was broken by the kids. Okay? Okay, let's move on. When do we use the passage or why? We use the passive form when the doer of the action is unknown. So we're just saying that something happened. The bank was robbed or the handbag was made in Japan or flying cars will be created. Or we can use it if the focus is on the action itself rather than the doer of the action. My car has been repaired. The milk was bought from a huge farm. Insulin was discovered by Frederick Grant Benton. And also we can use it to talk about general truths. Rules are made to be broken. The best olive oil is made in Tunisia, or sooner or later the truth will be revealed. When we use the passive form, we would say that something has been done or something was done. And that's about it. Something. Sometimes you don't know who did it. Sometimes you do. We're just or focusing on the action. Okay? Let's try now to put the verbs in the correct tense to complete the sentences, of course, in the passive voice. Okay? Okay. Now, when she got home, Stacy found that her flat. So, what? When she got home, Stacy found that her flat. Here, there's an action that happened first, and there is an action that happened second. In the timeline, in the past, of course, we have two past tenses that can be used one after the other. The first action that happens in the past normally has to be in the past perfect. If we put an action in the past perfect, we mean that it happened a long time ago in the past. It was the first action that happened in the past. The second one would be in the past simple. Okay, so that's the past simple normal one. If you want to say something has or had happened prior or before that action, we would use the past perfect, sorry. And that's how we use the past perfect. First action that happened prior to another action. What happened here? The fact that the flat was burgled happened before Stacy got getting home. Okay, so when she got home, this is the second action. Got home is the second action, and the burgling is the first one. So we need to put not this verb, of course, but the verb to be where is the passive here. And the only thing that changed in the passive is the verb to be. The other verb, which is burgle, needs to be in the past participle. So we would put the verb to be here in the past perfect because it happened first. The first action is the burgling. So had been. Past perfect plus, of course, past participle of burgle, burgled, regular verb. So know that this is the first action that happened. It needs to be in the past perfect, or it happened before another action in the past. The first action is in the past perfect. Second one is in the past simple. Okay? Now, second one, answers must in blue. This is an information or a fact. We have must or can or might or should or whatever modal verbs. With modal verbs, beware. We never put any verb in its tense. With modal verbs, they are always followed by a bare infinitive. Infinitive without to. That's a bare infinitive. Without the to. So instead of saying to be, we'll put only be. So here, my answers must be. And the verb right in its past participle, as usual, as we said, the initial verb needs to be always in the past participle. The only thing that changes is the verb to be. So written is the past participle of to write. Let me rewrite this in orange for you to make the difference between which verb is to be put in the right tense or form and which verb is to be as it is. Now, candidates might. Might is another modal verb. Same with the modal verbs. We said that with these modal verbs, we would put after them, you would have a bare infinitive. So might be would stay as it is, be. We wouldn't put to be. We said that plus bare infinitive, which means infinitive without to. So be plus the past participle of the initial verb. Ask, which is asked. Might be asked to sit for an interview. Now, the pyramids, thousands of years ago. Whenever you see a go, okay, whenever you see a go, it's a signal word for the past simple. Okay? A go is the signal word for the past simple. You need to get that. So if it is a signal word for the past simple, it means that we need to put be in the past simple. The pyramids are plural, so we wouldn't say was, but rather were, right? Were. And build, as we've seen earlier, the past participle is built as its past simple form. Now, your letter within 28 days. Within 28 days, it means that it didn't happen. It will happen in 28 days. So it means that it's in the future simple. Okay? It means that we need to put the verb to be in this future simple, will be, okay, plus the past participle of answer, and it's a regular verb, so it would be answered within 28 days. Hard Times to Write by Charles Dickens. So this is something that was written before, and I answered the question. It's in the past, so we need to put the verb to be in the past. Hard times. It's not plural because we have S here. No, singular. We're talking about, I don't know if it's a book or a poem, but Charles Dickens is a writer. So it's a book or a poem. I don't know which one. It needs to be in the a book maybe, or a poem, I don't know, a name of a poem or a book. So it needs to be in the singular, sorry. So was written. Our house to paint these days. These days. We need to stay at my parents' house. So we can't stay at our house. It means that it's something that is happening right now at the moment of speaking, which means that it needs to be put in the present, progressive, or continuous form, right? So the verb to be needs to be in present continuous. Is being right now at the moment. Is being what? Paint, and the past participle. Painted is being painted. Olives and oranges now to grow in Tunisia for centuries. For plus a period of time. For centuries. What are we saying here? We're given a fact, okay? The olives and oranges. If we have a fact, so we need to put the verb to be in the present simple tense. Are grown. Grow, grown. Past participle of grow is grown. My car to repair this week, so I'm going to work by bus. So if it's this week, so it's happening right now. Since I'm going to work by bus. So it needs to be in the present continuous as usual. Is being plus the past participle of this verb. It's a regular verb, ends with ed. Kennedy assassinate in 1963. So this happened in 1963. You have a date here of the past. So it's the past simple, right? You need to put the verb to be in the past simple. Kennedy was assassinated. Okay? Good. Let's move on now. Now, we have a second grammar point, okay? I need you to focus with me because this is a bit challenging. It's not hard, it's not difficult, only a bit challenging. Take a look at these sentences and tell me what do you notice here? Are you insane? Seldom have I seen such a movie. Had you told me about the issue a few days before, I would have managed things. What do you see here, guys? Tell me. What do you see? Are you? Seldom have I? And had you? So we know, if we take a look at the first sentence, we know that we invert and we use the inversion with the questions, right? So we use inversion with questions. What do we mean by inversion, guys? It means that we have an agreement in grammar. we have a certain order, which is called SVO. This is subject plus a verb plus an object. This is agreed on. We can't change it. But here, if you see, guys, we started, instead of starting with a subject, we started with are, which is a verb or auxiliary. Here, same. Instead of saying I have, we said have I. Why? We don't have a question. I don't know. We will see together. And same here, had you. Why did we start with the inversion? Why did we start with a verb instead of starting with a subject? This is inversion. It's when we change the order of the words. Instead of starting with the subject, we start with a verb plus the subject, and then the object doesn't change. Okay? This is inversion. Okay, let me explain. As with questions, sometimes also we can use inversion. What is inversion? It just means putting the verb before the subject, as we said here. So we have verb, subject, object, instead of the agreement, which is subject, verb, object. And now, when do we use inversion? We use inversion with, first of all, questions, right? We don't say you are insane because this is a sentence. With the questions, we say, are you insane? Okay. Obviously not, of course. Then we wouldn't say they have met the queen. If we want to ask a question, we need to put the verb before the subject, and we would say, have they instead of they have. Have they met the queen? Let me repeat that. We said that we have an agreement, SVO agreement. What does this mean? We need to, whenever we have a sentence, we need to start the sentence with a subject, then this is first, then the verb, then the object. Sometimes we need to use inversion. What do we mean by inversion? We invert these two. Instead of starting with the subject, we start with the verb. So this changes its order. So the second one comes the first, then the subject, which is the first one, and then the object. See, that's inversion. Yes, Rania.
Miss?
Yes.
This is the passive voice or active voice.
We already done that. Okay.
Miss?
Yes, Miss. Do you want me to explain it real quick? Okay, let me just go back to it real quick because we already explained it. I'm just going to explain it real quick. But if you would like, you can go back to the session afterwards and watch it. Okay, we said that we use the passive voice to say that the doer of the action, when the doer of the action is unknown, we don't know who did the action. ما نعرفوش شكون عمل الحاجة. دونك في عوض باش نقولوا الحاجة هذيك ولا معناش نقولوا مثل someone فما شكون عمل الحاجة هذيك نقولوا الحاجة هذيك اتعملت. هذا هو passive voice. Something was done or something has been done or etc. Second, we use the passive voice when the focus is on the action itself rather than the doer of the action. Donc معناها نحبوا نحطوا نقولوا نركزوا على الأكسيون على الأكشن وما نركزوش على شكون عملها. Donc حاجة تعملت مثال كتاب تكتب مش يقولوا الكتاب هذاك تكتبه برا، ولا التصويرة تصورت the car has been repaired، معناها الكهرباء تصلحت، منها مش لازم نقولوا شكون صلحها، جست هاني تصلحت وكاهو. ذا هو passive voice. Second thing where we can use it. Either the doer of the action is unknown، دونك ما نعرفوش شكون عمل، دونك نقولوا الحاجة اتعملت هكا هو، وإلا ثاني حاجة نفس الاستعمال، راهو جوست معناها نفس الحاجة معناتها تكتب، جوست أنا نقولوا ساعات نركزوا على هذه وساعات نركزوا على الأخرى. ساعات بيصير نركزوا على الأكشن هكاهو، على الفعل هكاهو، دونك نقولوا الحاجة هذيك اتعملت وكاهو. 3. When we talk about general truths، حاجة تصنعت تبنيت، ولا rules are made to be broken. The best olive oil is made in Tunisia. When her later the truth will be revealed. Donc حاجة معروفة، information العباد الكل تعرفها، دونك هذه هي general truths. باهي دونك يا اما ما نعرفوش شكون عمل الحاجة، شكون عمل الاكشن، والا الاكشن نركزوا على الاكشن itself، الحاجه اللي كانت عملت نحبوا نعرفوا معناها اللي هي اتعملت، ركزوا عليها. والا general truth which means حاجه معروفه للعباد الكل، information معروفه للعباد الكل. Okay, and this is when we use the passive voice. We said that again, let me explain it. عنا في passive voice عنا to be plus the past participle. The past participle doesn't change، ما يتبدلش. ذاك هو لازمك تحفظ الليستة متاع past participles regular verbs، خاطر regular verbs هيلين verb plus eg كما في past simple، تزيد ال وكهو. بالنسبة لل irregular verbs لازمك تحفظهم، خاطر كل مرة يتبدلوا ما فيهمش قاعدة. سينو شنو ولا يتبدل هو verb to be. تنجم تقولي ساعات يكون was، ساعات يكون has been، ساعات يكون عشان have been، ساعات يكون was being كمان هناك، ساعات يكون will be. وقتاش نعرف كان عنا الactive voice رانا نجيبه ال to be من tense of the verb in the active voice. يبدأ عنا الactive voice، يبدأ عنا الverb متاعو، ناخذ التنس متاع الverb متاعو ونحطه to be في نفس التنس. كان ما عناش راك باش تنظر to be أي كيما أي verb تنظر له باش تشوف كان عندكش كلمة signal word أي tense نقراوه، رانا نقراو الكونتكست متاعو، use متاعو، وقتاش نستعملوه ولا علاش نستعملوه، ونقراو الفورم متاعو بيان سور كيفاش يتعمل، معناها كيفاش تكتب، وسورتو نقراو signal words. عندك يا اما dates، دونك date دونك كيما 1964 2010، وعندنا signal words دونك كيما now، كيما for معها وقت معناها، كيما since، كيما ago، كيما already. لنا عندنا already مثال السيجنال word متاع present perfect، دونك كي ترى already لازمك تحط الverb to be في ال present perfect، ولا أي verb آخر كي ترى already معاه لازمك تحطه في ال present perfect. كي نقولوا soon باش يكون will معناها future، على خاطر soon مازال ما جاش، باش يجي كما نقولوا قريبا، دونك قريبا معناها in the future. كلمات كيما هكا كيما لازمك ترد بالك منهم، كيما ago مثال ago is the past simple signal word of the past simple. If you see ago it means that you need to use the past simple. Okay, دونك تتعامل مع verb to be كما تتعامل مع أي verb، تغزل date كان عندك date، وإلا context دونك في أي context يحكي على الأكشن هذيك شنو هو اليوز متاعها، علاش استعملناها. والثالث حاجة هي signal words. You need to know each signal word of each tense. And that's how we know how to put the verbs in the passive voice. And now let's hit the inversion again. Okay, we said what is inversion? It means putting the verb before the subject. Donc نحطوا الverb قبل subject. Okay, normally the agreement الاتفاق في الجرامر إنه نحطوا subject مع verb كما قلنا لنا، ومن بعده الverb ومن بعده معناها object. Donc 1 is the subject, 2 is the verb, 3 is the object. Okay, the object doesn't change its place. What changes its place sometimes is the verb and the subject. Donc يقدم الverb على subject، يجي من الأول يولي ما عادش يولي number 2، يولي في بلاصة number 1 باقي number 2 ما يولي في بلاصة number 1 والsubject يولي بعده يولي في بلاصته هو number 2 donc verb plus subject plus object. This is the inversion. Okay, when does it happen? It happens in a lot of instances. تحصل معنا في العديد من الأوقات. عنا أول inversion, we know it. It's very easy. It's in the question. Whenever we have a question, we need to put the verb before the subject. كل ما يكون عنا question, لازمنا نحط verb قبل subject. Are you insane? Instead of you are insane هي جملة عادية. They have met the queen. Instead of have they met the queen? See, they subject have كverb. donc لنا حولنا هذايا لنا وحولنا هذايا لنا. هذايا كانت بلاصتو ان ولات بلاصتو لنا دو. هذايا كان بلاصتو دو ولا بلاصتو لنا ان. هذايا هو الانفرجن. اش معناها؟ تعكس تبدل. شنو باش تبدل جوست الفيرب يكون بعد السبجكت يولي قبل السبجكت. هيك هي كان عندنا auxiliary شو يكون قبل السبجكت ولا بتابعه كان past participle كان verb plus ing اللي هو اللي تابعه يكون بعد السبجكت. Okay, first instance where we do the inversion is with the question. أما رانا عندنا برشا أوقات زادا نجمو نقلبوا الverb يجي قبل السبجكت. وقتاش؟ ثاني وقت معنا نجمو نقلبوا الverb والسبجكت هي في negative adverbials. We can invert with the negative adverbials. What are the negative adverbials? They are verb or words that have a negative meanings. They are adverbs. هما adverbs عندهم negative sense. They show emphasis. They have a surprising, striking, or unusual effect. They sound quite formal. I will show you some of these negative adverbials. For instance, I have seldom seen such an amazing landscape. بأغزر. صحيح احنا في question لازم معناها نحطوا الفيرب بعده السبجكت. الفيرب ساعة ومن بعد السبجكت. أما راهو مع أي وحدة باش تجي من بعد تو باش نحكيو عليها رانا كيما نجم نكتبوها عادية كيما نجمو نكتبوها معناها بالinversion. أما راهو it's plus or more formal to use the inversion. This is more formal than this. Okay, I have seldom seen such an amazing landscape. This is correct. And also seldom have I seen such an amazing landscape. This is also correct. So have seen, and then we have I. Take a look at I. So normally it begins with I. No, it doesn't. We have the subject is here. It's in the second placement. And have, normally it's in the second. No, it becomes in the first placement. Doesn't matter with the past participles, doesn't matter. What we need to focus on is the auxiliary, or if it has only one form of a verb, so we need to put the verb before the subject. Okay, good. Third instance, when we can apply inversion, we can use inversion, is with the inverted conditional forms. It's more formal as usual. For instance, we can just say, if you had told me about the issue a few days ago, before, I would have been able to help you. However, we can also say, we can get rid of if. Okay? Here, we don't have it. Get rid of if. We have had, told. We have you. So instead of starting with the subject one, and then the verb or the auxiliary, we start with the auxiliary. Over here, number one, it becomes number one. and you becomes number 2. See, that's inversion. And then, of course, you have past participles. It's in here. It doesn't matter. It's after the subject. It stays after the subject. So instead of saying, if you had told me, we would say, had you told me about the issue a few days before? No. Okay. Instead of saying if or using if in the conditional, we can get rid of if or when, staying in the conditionals. We can get rid of if, just delete it, and we apply the inversion. We start with the verb and then the subject. So if the verb contains an auxiliary, it means that we start with the auxiliary, then the subject, and whatever comes after, comes after. Okay? Okay. Some words that mean almost not, or that have the meaning of succession of events. We can use them, and with them, we can use inversion, like hardly, when, hardly, when, barely, when, scarcely, when, and no sooner, then. We can use these words, and with them, we can invert, as we can also get rid of inversion. For instance, hardly had I opened the store when tens of customers poured in. We can say, I had hardly opened, and this is not inversion. No inversion here. Here is the inversion. Okay? I had hardly opened the store. Nothing changes after just put in the either the auxiliary or the verb before the subject, like here. Nothing changes afterwards. If you can notice that when tens of customers poured in. Okay. See here, let's take a look. We have had, opened, and we have I, which is the subject. So I comes here after the auxiliary, and then we have the auxiliary first, then I, then of course everything that comes afterwards. We start with hardly, of course. To make the inversion, we start with these words: hardly, barely, scarcely, no sooner, not a sound, etc. Okay. And this is how inversion happens with these words that mean almost not, or that have the meaning of succession of events. Or they are used to apply that. Then we have only. Only if, only after, only until, only when, only now, only, etc. Whenever you use that word at the beginning of the sentence, same. Let me just highlight the fact that this has to be used at the beginning, at the beginning of the sentence. It equals what? You need to use inversion. Same thing with these words at the beginning of the sentence. If you don't use them at the beginning of the sentence, you wouldn't use any inversion. Here, of course, you need to use inversion. Here, yes, inversion. Don't forget to use inversion whenever these kind of words are used at the beginning of the sentence, like seldom, as also. Well, only if, or only after, or only until we stay at, or we stay home, can we control the spread of this pandemic. Okay. You can say we can, okay, let me just remove the inversion here, we can only, or we can stay only, okay? We can only we can only stay. We can only stay home. Everything that we have afterwards. If or after or until, after if you want. Just to change if. We can only stay home after we control the spread this pandemic, or after we can, because we have two cans. No, only one. After we control the spread of this pandemic. Okay, we can only stay home after we control the spread of this pandemic. This is not inverted, no inversion here. Okay, no inversion. Here we have inversion, of course. As usual, here we have only. We have after or if or whatever, after. And then here we have can, stay. Then here we have stay. Have can. Okay, and we have control. We control the spread of this pandemic. Can we? Okay. So after this, we can also use not only, not once, not since, not until, etc. To apply inversion as usual, we put the verb first. Here we have the auxiliaries, help and verbs if you want. Here we have only the verb. Here is the verb that we inverted. Will, a mode verb. And then here we have the subject, and the subject. Okay. Have run here. Same thing with other words that we can use are under no circumstances, on no account, on no condition, in no way, nowhere, no way, or in no way, same. We can also use these words to apply inversion. We can also use never, rarely, seldom, as we said, little to show infrequency. And we can also use these words to invert the subject with a verb. Okay, then we put the verb before, as you see here, have, does, are, does. Of course, these are auxiliaries. We put them before. And then we have either the past participle afterwards, punished, take actions, that's the verb, word, do. And just after the verb, take a look here, we put the subject, I. So the verb then the subject, just like with the question. يعني في التبديل هذايا نعملوا كيما الكيستيون، ما احنا ما عندناش كيستيون، ما عندناش سؤال احنا، اما احنا نقلبوا كيما في السؤال بالضبط. Okay? Have I heard? Does the world نكتبوا كيما سؤال بالضبط. مي سوف كي يبدأ قبل معنا نبدأ الجملة ب never, before, rarely, seldom, little، والكلام اللي قلناه كل هذايا وهذايا وهذايا، وكيما قلنا راهم هذوما في أول الجملة أول حاجة لازمكم جست تعرفوا هذوما الكلمات، وثاني حاجة راهو مش غلط كانت تقول كيما الجملة هذه، معناها كانت ترجع جملة كيما هي ما غير حتى inversion. I have never before مثال، ولا never كهو. لاحظ بالكم بالكولر آخر جست باش تراو اللي نجم نحطها في وسط الجملة never before. I have never before وتكمل على روحك، معناها heard of the. هذه الجملة العادية اللي نورمالمون رواها، أما احنا ساعات نجمو نبدلو البلايص متاع كان في الأوقات هذوما اللي قلناهم مع الكلمات هذوما نجمو نقلبو كيما في السؤال بالضبط، كيما نكونو السؤال بالضبط ما ماهوش سؤال. هذايا راهو more formal أكثر هذا. أما كيما تنجم تستعملو كيما تنجم تخلي العادي معنا من غير ما تقلب. Have I heard, does the word take actions، ولا are the offenders the world etc. معناها لنا عنا verb ولنا عنا بعده subject. نحنا ما تكونش هكا نورمالمون subject ومن بعده verb. في الagreement متاعنا كما قلنا SVO subject العادي، معناها الجملة العادية نورمالمون subject من بعدها verb من بعدها object. احنا هني ساعات كيف في الانفرجن I repeat it we can invert بالعكس نحطه عاد نبدأ بالسبجكت، لا نبدأ بالverb من بعده السبجكت والobject يقعد عادي. معناها هي شنو ولا يتبدل هو السبجكت verb emplacement كان تحب في السنتنس. كما قلنا هذايا more formal راهو مش obligé، معناها ما just more formal. معناها كي تكتب حاجة formal لازمك تكتب بالطريقة هذه بلوتو كو الطريقة العادية، الجملة العادية من غير ما تبدل معناها. اوكي دونك لنا ما عندناش حتى inversion عادية الجملة العادية، لنا عنا inversion. شفت الديفيرنس؟ I have never of course ديما الادفيرب يجي بعد الاوكسيلري، كي يبدا عنا auxiliary كان ما عندناش auxiliary راهو باش نحطوه بعد الفعل العادي. لنا عنا auxiliary of course have. I have never before or never كهو مش obligé before heard of the conquered plane. لنا قش قلنا never or never before بدينا بها. بعد have ولا لنا لنا كان number 2 هكا، ولا معناه هو الverb لنا كان هذا number 1 هو subject كيما لنا. تو تقلبوا هذا number 2 جاء لنا ولا number 1، وبعد number 1 جاء لنا ولا number 2. اوكي هذا هو الانفرجن. دونك لازمك تعرف هذوما never before ولا never how rarely seldom little under no circumstances on no account on no condition in no way nowhere etc. no way. not معها أي كلمة not only not once not since not until أي كلمة معها. only معها أي كلمة زي كيف كيف، ولا only وحدها only if only after only until only when only now. وإلا كيما hardly barely scarcely no sooner معاهم هذوما hardly when تنساوش barely when scarcely when أما no sooner than. اوكي ساعات conditional ساعات نحيو الإف ونقلبوا الفيرب، معناها نبدو بالفيرب من بعده subject. هذيك هي كيفاش مع الكونديشنر نعملوا الانفرجن. نحيو الإف لأن شفت نحيناها، وبعد في عوض حطينا you had told حطينا الأوكسيلوري من الأول verb بعده subject والpast participle ولا verb plus ing ولا أي حاجة مع الأوكسيلوري راهي تتحط من بعد، معناها عادية ما تتبدلش. بدلي جست كان عندك verb برك بدلي الverb قبل ومن بعده subject، كان عندك auxiliary بدل auxiliary من الأول ومن بعده subject. and then كما قلنا some negative adverbials كما عنا seldom هو negative adverbials نجم تحطهم من الأول كما never زدا negative adverbials زدا كيف معناها adverb negative عنده معنى negative. هذاك نجم تحطهم من الأول في وسط الجملة وتقلب ذي تحطوا more formal. و questions bien sûr ما ننساوش بالطبيعة راهو بنفس الطريقة متاع تعمل بها question just ماهوش question وكاو. خلينا نحاولوا نعملوا ذي. حاولت من الأول نعطيكم فكرة، ومن بعد في الجمل الأخرانيين نخليكم معناها انتوما تحاولوا وحدكم. به the kids didn't make a sound. حاولت نعطيكم hint نعاونكم شوية. not a sound أبدالي ب not a sound، ترد لي الجملة ذنا نيجاتيف ما غير ما تحط لي didn't. not a sound. شفت النيجيشن في didn't ديجا حطيتها لنا. به عنا did وعنا make. لأن عنا did كان معناش do، راك باش تحط do بمعنى معناها معناش verb to be، خاطر verb to be تخليه هو كهو. أما كان عنا أي verb apart verb to be راك تحط verb do في التنس متاع الverb هكايا ومن بعده الverb. دونك not a sound كيفاش نعملوا لنا not a sound، وبعد نبداو بالفعل اللي هو بالauxiliary. أول حاجة نحطو did، بنبدل لكم كولور باش تفهموا شوية. did في عوض نحطو the kids ما نحطوهاش من الأول، لا يسوفي بدينا بحاجة تخلينا نقلبو، رانا باش نبداو بالverb ما نبداوش subject. did شكون the kids، تو نحطو subject. اوكي وبعد نحطو بقية الفعل، معناها مادام فما auxiliary راهو باش يكون فما فعل، ما يكون عندنا auxiliary كان بقية الفعل اللي هو make did make. خلينا نعاودو نقراوها. not a sound did the kids make. حتى صوت ما عملوه الصغار ولا الصغار ما عملوا حتى صوت، ما فماش فرق، جست هذية more formal هكا هو. تنساوش راهو مكمش غالطين كي تكتبوا جملة عادية، معناها جست هذية more formal with the inversion. okay let's move on. يلا لأن حطيت لكم not only و they و lie. دونك عنا subject they وعنا verb lie. قلنا أي verb apart verb to be يبدأ عنا verb to be برك تحطوا كيما هو، معناها تحطوا verb to be ومن بعده للسبجكت. أي verb كيما verb to be راك on dirait تعمل في question كيما نعملوا question بالضبط. مو كي يبدأ عنا أي verb apart verb to be في question كي يبدأ في past ولا في present هكا هو نحطوا شو نحطوا did do في التنس متاع past ولا present simple. كي يبدأ عنا tense آخر نحطوا bien sûr auxiliary have مثال ولا أي عنا أي auxiliary. أما لأن عنا lie to our faces but they also make fun of us. دونك لنا شو نحطوا هذايا not only نبداو بها كالعادة نبداو بالverb لنا باش نحطوا did كيف بيان سور. احنا ايش نقصدوا لنا علاش حطينا الباست؟ خاطر نقصدوا ما مش معناها مش كذبوا علينا كهو not only to our faces lie to our faces. دونك كذبوا علينا قدامنا but they also make fun of us زادا يضحكوا علينا. دونك not only معها auxiliary did ومن بعد auxiliary نحطوا subject they ومن بعد نحطوا lie. كي يبدأ عنا auxiliary did bien sûr الverb يقعد كما هو. not only did they lie but to our faces أصل من بعد هذا كل كي donc to our faces but they also make fun of us. هذيك هي الجملة. just تقلب الفعل نبدأ بالفعل كما في الquestion بالضبط. on dirait قلت did they lie to our faces that's the question. كيف نفس الطريقة. من بعد nowhere you find a heart that loves you more than mine. كيفاش نعملوا لنا كالعادة نبداو ب nowhere خاطر كان باش نحطها في وسط الجملة رانا مش معناها ما عادش نجمو نقلبو. nowhere بي عندك you find كيف راك باش تحط do في التنس اللي حاجتك بيه. باهي وإلا باش تزيد مودل سامحني will ولا كان بي عندنا هني find a heart that loves you more than mine. دونك ما كيما نقولوا باش نقولوا ما تنجمش تلقى حتى قلب يحبك كيما قلبي. دونك باش تقول ما تنجمش تنجم معناها الability ولا ما تنجمش ability هكا ولا دونك نجمو نحطو كان ومن بعد السبجكت you ومن بعد الverb عادي كيما هو. nowhere can you find ونكملو. هنكمل لك الجملة هذه نكملها لكم باش جست تشوفوها كيفاني. a heart that loves you more than mine. on dirait راهو كي نحيو الانفيرجن نقولوا you can find or you cannot find nowhere or you can find مادام عندنا nowhere لازم نخلي you can في البوزيتيف فورم خاطر nowhere هي ديجا نيجاتيف. you can find nowhere a heart that loves you more than mine. نجم تلقى في حتى بلاصة قلبي يحبك كيما قلبي. وإلا nowhere can you find a heart that loves you more than mine. إيش نقلبوا؟ معناها كان هذه inversion فيها ولا؟ فهذه inversion. احنا تو نعملوا no inversion. باهي نحاولوا نعملوها. نجم نقولوا you bien sûr نبدأ بالسبجكت. can find هو الفعل كامل معه verb modal ومعه الverb العادي. you can find nowhere. you can find nowhere ونكملوا a heart that loves you more than mine. هذه ما فيهاش inversion عادية. on dirait معناها احنا من لنا no inversion هذه وهذه فيها inversion. on dirait كان عنا you can find nowhere. بدينا nowhere هو هي. باش نعملوا نقلبوا عنا modal ولا عنا auxiliary ديما نحطوه قبل السبجكت. هذايا جبناه لنا كان بعد كتبنا السبجكت you من بعد الباقي اللي يجي من بعد يقعد نفسه find. نحينا نوار خدها لنا من الأول a heart that loves you more than mine كله ما تبدلش. لقيت كيفاش on dirait كتبت معناها can you find a heart that loves you more than mine. هذا question مثال. on dirait كتبتوا هذاك question أما هو مش question جملة عادية. حاولوا الأخرانية ومازالك واحدة أخرين. no sooner he locked the door than the phone started ringing. donc نبدأ no sooner كالعادة. كان حتى نحطها في الوسط تولي جملة عادية ما عادش نقلبوا جملة. باهي no sooner عندها هي وعندنا lock. donc كيفاش نقول no sooner باهي the door than the phone started ringing. باهي بكري قلت لكم كتايم لاين هيك ولا عندك في الباست. هذا باقي في الباست معناها عادي. باست الكل راهو عندنا ساعات واحدة تجي قبل الأخرى. شنو هي الباست بيرفكت راهو تجي قبل الباست سيمبل. اش معنى هذا؟ معناها راهو لازمك تخمم باللوجيك. شنو هي الاكشن اللي جات قبل وشنو هي الاكشن اللي جات من بعد. راهو الاكشن تاع الباست بيرفكت راهي تجي اول وحده في الباسي. اول وحده بعيده معناها في الباسي. اول وحده تجي في الباسي. والاكشن اللي تجي من بعد هذيك راهي هذيك في الباست سيمبل. generally normalement كي يجيو زوز اكسيونات مع بعضهم معناها واحده في الباست سيمبل يقول لك الاخرى وين يقولوا راهي في الباست بيرفكت خاطر هيك صارت قبلها. كان ما صارتش قبلها في نفس الوقت راهي نفس التنس باست سيمبل معناها كان صارت قبلها راهي باست بيرفكت. لأن هو شنو يقول معناها no sooner معناها تبلا سكرت الباب التليفون ناقص. دونك دوبلا سكرت الباب اني سكرت الباب قبل ومن بعد التليفون ناقص ما صاروش مع بعضهم. راه الحاجه هذه صارت من الاول ومن بعدها نو سونر دونك مش قريب معناها ومن بعدها صارت التليفون معناها ناقص started ringing. دونك الاكشن الاولى اللي هي lock in the door صارت في الباست بيرفكت. احنا الباست بيرفكت كيفاش نعملوه had have في الباست مع الباست participle. هي الباست بيرفكت. اوكي had مع past participle هذه هي past perfect. دونك لنا عنا lock the door دونك عنا had نكتبو ومعها past participle متاع lock اللي هي locked معناها verb regular هو verb دونك مريقل مع يفهم بالأدي. باهي دونك عنا had ومعها حاجة دونك obligé باش نبداو بالهاد اللي هو auxiliary. دونك لنا مش نكتبو نبداو بالهاد هو auxiliary ومن بعد subject هي on dirait عندك question كيما قلت خمم on dirait عندك question تسهلك كيفاش تعملها. نعرفوا نعملوا questions هكا ولا؟ دونك no sooner had he locked ونكملوا عادي الباقي كل ما يتبدلش يعني كالعادة the door then هذه then just جدناها على خاطر فما no sooner then the phone no sooner than كما نقولوا other comparative form started ringing. باهي لو انكم معلومة just باش ما تدخلوش بعضكم past هذايا فما هذيا وفما هذا زاد ما نساويهاش المعلومة هذيا. دونك ديما خمو اون باش تعملوا question had he locked the door ماش علينا في الباقية had he locked the door منها سكر الباب دونك فوالا دونك فهمت خمم بقى اون ديغي قاعد تعمل فيه question وتسهلك على الاخر على الاخر على الاخر جست جيت الكلمة على حسنا بها انت باش تبدا عندك انت تحب تستعملها معناها يا اما تجيب كلمة من عندك يا اما تبدا ديجا عندك الكلمة وانت تستعملها بها only وهذوك من كلمات سهلين على الاخر in no way ولا no way ولا كلمات كمان كيكا شوفي تبدا بهم لازمك تعمل inversion معناها به لان عندنا only when the last person had left she sat down and tried to relax. الحاجة الوحيدة باش نبدلوها لنا هي she و sit. باهي منجمش نحطو sit she لا impossible نجمش في question تقول sit she لا أنا لازمنا auxiliary do نزيدوه في أنا tense نزيدوه في past نزيدوه أنا had left معناها had left past perfect دونك she said شنو تكون في past simple هكا ولا دونك الحاجة الوحيدة باش تبدل هذا من الكل كيف يعني خلينا نرجع ستيلو only when the last person had left كيف علاش مش يتبدل لنا باش نزيدو do في الباست قلنا خاطر هذه past perfect كيما حكينا بكري واحدة قبل الأخرى باهي ما تصير هذه كلمة هذه تصير دونك هذه الأولى وهذه الثانية did ومن بعد noun she ومن بعد أنا sit تقعد sit ومن بعد الباقي كل ما يتبدلش كالعادة down and try to relax only when the last person had left did she sit down and try to relax مش سايبة حتى طرف did she sit ونتغي عندك question did she sit down هذه ونتغي عندك question باهي نكملوا كالعادة under no circumstances you inform the police يبدأ عندنا expression like this نكتبوها كما هي we write it as it is we write under no circumstances you have you and you have inform same مش نحطو لازم نحطو modal ولا auxiliary مع subject معهم بعد كاش يا past participle يا حاجة كمان كيك يا infinitive ولا اللي هو كان زدنا modal مثال under no circumstances معناها اني تو قاعدة نقولوا رد بالك تحت حتى معناها مش ضغط حتى معناها رد بالك لا تعمل الحاجة هذه under no circumstances مش نقولوا كان ولا will ولا يعمل حد شيء معناها اختار أي model خير من do لأن do you confirm مش صحيح under no circumstances مثال كان رد بالك لا تتكلم البوليسية رد بالك لا تعمل هالحاجة هذيك ولا will يعمل حد شيء donc under no circumstances كان نختاروا لنا بعد السبجكت you ومن بعد inform تقعد كما هي خاطر كان معها كان وشود وماي ومايت المودل verbs هذوما كل معاهم ديما bare infinitive كما قلنا بكري ما يتبدلوش جملة okay now the police under no circumstances can you inform the police okay donc ما كلامهمش ما تكلمش البوليسية ب not a sound or be heard not a sound be heard at the funeral كيف نبدأ ب not a sound باهي نجم تستعمل كان ولا بي ولا شيء ولا دو سامحني ولا يمشي be heard نجم نحطو مادام be heard معناها هذا كيما passive دونك شو نحطو was or were or أي tense ولا be ولا is ولا كذا. دونك لنا نختاروا past not a sound نحكيه وإحنا نقولوا معناها غير نحكي not a sound. باش تشوف فما حاجة لنا was heard. وينو ال subject؟ وينو subject لنا؟ لنا معناش no subject. علاش؟ خاطرو passive voice. ساعات مع passive voice ما قلناها رانا بكري قلنا passive voice اللي جاي مخر يرجع بعد rewatch the session and you will find that we explained it. I explained it. So there is no subject because we have the passive voice. قلنا ساعات كي يبدأ عنا passive voice ما نحتاجوش مش ما نحتاجوش ساعات ما يكونش عنا subject ما يكونش عنا شكون عمل الحاجة. دونك هذا سبب من الأسباب اللي احنا نستعمل passive voice. يا إما حد ما عملش ما نعرفوش شكون عمل الحاجة دونك مش نقولوا الحاجة تعملت وإلا نحبوا نركزوا على الأكشن دونك نقولوا الحاجة تعملت وإلا نحكي على general truths دونك نقولوا نستعملوا passive voice. هذا حاجة تعملت وكهو. B. Not a sound was heard at the funeral. This is the passive voice, so there is no subject here. Okay, now, after that, we have little, she and question his loyalty, but he ended up cheating on me. So, little, then, she questioned his loyalty. Little, حطوا بعد did ولا do. Did, bien sûr, this is in the past. You have to understand with the context here. Little did she question. بعد نكملوا عادي. His, bien sûr, loyalty, his loyalty, but he ended up cheating on me. Of course, not me. خاطر مادام she دونك لازمنا نحطو on her وإلا نحطو I ونخليو me واحدة من الاثنين. ماهوش البروناونس صحيح هذا. She, her, me, I. Okay, we still have a lot of sentences. You can try to do them yourselves, okay? Because we have no time. نحاول نعطيكم أكثر من نجم because it's a free session. But whoever can study afterwards, I will of course tackle more. Okay, let's try to do these types of exercises that we can have in the test, okay? Some of the types of exercises are circling the right alternative. Here, what you need to take a look at is you need to take a look at the form, you need to take a look at your vocabulary or the baggage, what you have in your mind sometimes, and sometimes, of course, well, most of the time it's grammar. We have either need a verb or a noun or an adjective, or which preposition do you need? You need to know which one. Sometimes some verbs need specific prepositions. Sometimes, for instance, like to say to take care after, it's not like take care of. It's not the same thing. Look after is not like look for. Look for is search, and look after is taking care of someone. See? So you need to know which exact preposition goes with which verb. This is one. Two, sometimes you need to, for instance, you have a noun. What do you need before a noun? If you have a place here or you have something that, you know, whatever, you can have noun, verb, etc. What do you need before a noun? You need to choose the adjective, because what modifies a noun is only the adjective and only an adjective. For instance, we have for a verb, an adverb, it can modify a verb It can modify or describe an adjective, and it can also modify another adverb, other one. So, for instance, if you have a verb already and you try to know what do you need here, you try to search for an adverb, for instance. If you have everything, okay? If you have a noun, you have an adjective, you have everything, what you need before or after a verb is an adverb, normally after it, but you can have the verb here, or you can also have it here, okay? Beware. Okay, let's try to do this exercise. Mankind's most serious challenge in this century might not be war, hunger, or disease, but the shortage, nature, availability of fresh water. Which one is correct? Do we say the shortage of fresh water? Do we say the nature of fresh water, or do we say the availability of fresh water? Here you have a noun here, a noun here, and a noun here. What you need after the article is a noun. This is obvious. After an article, you need a noun, of course. But you have 3 nouns here. So what you need to do is you need to take a look at your baggage, your vocabulary, and you need to know which one do you need here based on the vocabulary that you have. We don't say the nature of fresh water. We don't say the availability of fresh water. Instead, we say the shortage. The serious problem, it's a problem. It's a challenge, okay? So we said a challenge. So that's why we can't say availability. We need to say that it's a shortage. This is the problem. A shortage of fresh water is the challenge. Then, in fact, in many countries, including rich ones, problems are getting more, less, or most severe. Getting, okay, this is progressive, severe as water demand, etc. Do you need more? Are getting more severe? Are getting less severe? Or are getting most severe? You can't use most, okay? The most severe. They are getting or they are becoming the most severe. That's correct, because when you use superlative with superlative, you compare one thing to a group, okay? And with comparative, you compare one to another, one to one. So here, what are we going to say? More or less or most? Most severe, it's not correct. This is a comparative form. They are getting less or more. Of course, we're talking about an issue, a shortage of fresh water. So it's getting more severe. Of course, more severe. Severe is negative, so it's getting more severe as water demand. Water demand, the demand of people, the use, if you want, decreases, drops, or rises. It's the water demand, they are not decreasing, they are not dropping. Decrease and drop, it's the same word, more or less, okay? Decrease and drop, same thing. Basically, drop is like this, and decrease is progressive. It rises, of course, it's the opposite. It rises. Okay, you have verbs, same. And more people move to expanding urban areas. In short, the need for safe, clean drinking water is increasing as rapidly or rapidity. Take a look at here. You have as, and you have rapid, you have rapidly, and you have rapidity. You have rapid, adjective. You had rapidly, adverb, and you have rapidity, which is a noun. As. This is a form of comparative to talk about similarities. Things that are equal, okay? Equal. You have a form with that, which is as plus adjective plus as. Okay, as plus adjective, not any other form, plus adjective plus as. So here you need rapid as. You don't say as rapidly as. You can say that, but here we're not talking about okay, sorry. Here I made a mistake. We're talking about increasing, so it's the verb that is increasing, not something. So we can't use adjective here. Rather, we have to use an adverb. It's the same thing as plus adverb plus as. It's just to say that something happened in the same adverb plus as. Something happened samely. Okay, this is also a similarity, but this is used with verbs, adjectives, or adverbs, and this is used with only nouns to compare nouns, and this is to compare an action. So here, yes, I guessed it right. It's an adverb, as rapidly as. I'm sorry for that. It's the increasing, it's the verb increasing or the action of increasing that happened rapidly instead of anything, okay? As the world's population experts agree that unless something is done, has done to solve the problem. Which form is correct? Something is doing, is done, or has done to solve the problem. Something we can't say is doing. So because something, it's not the subject. We don't know what it is. Okay, we're talking in the passive form. So we need a passive form of the verb, which is done. Something is done. We don't know who is going to do it. We just need that action to happen. So here we're focusing on the action. Something is done to solve the problem. We can't say has done because same as is doing. It's not the something. It's not the subject. It can't do anything. It's just something. We don't know what it is. 2/3 of the world's people will suffer from severe lack of water by the year 2025, especially given that a large part of the Earth's water resources are not safe, clean, or renewable, and that finding new reserves is costly. Greater steps have needed or are needed to conserve. Which tense do we need to use? Which form instead of tense? Greater steps have needed or are needed to conserve and use water. Same thing here. We need the passive form, are plus the past participle, the verb to be plus the past participle. The greatest steps, they're not the doer of the action. So we can't use any tense with these, with this word. Greatest steps are the objects. We need to do, or we are the subject. If we say we could have said need or have needed. But here, the greatest steps are the objects. So we need the passive form. It's us that we need to do the action. Or we need to take greater steps to conserve and use water more efficiency, or more efficiently. So if you say more efficient, we need a noun. Do we have a noun after it? No, we don't have a noun. We would have said more efficient technique. That would be correct because we have an adjective here, and an adjective, it has to modify a noun. It's not the water that is efficient, of course. We need more efficient techniques, okay? But here, what we're saying is that we need to use, let me just underline it. We need to use water. How? If you're asking about the how, the manner, it means that we need an adverb. So we need to use It means that here we need a word that modifies or describes or adds an intensity. تبدل حاجة معناها تزيدها حاجة ولا تبدل منها حاجة ولا تنقص حتى منها حاجة. تنقص من شنو؟ تنقص من الفعل. دونك شنو هي الكلمة هذه؟ كما قلنا هو الادverb. الادverb هو it modifies. نكتب لكم modifies يا إما verbs يا إما adjectives يا إما adverbs. mostly معناها it modifies verbs. أكثر حاجة تلقاها إنها verbs بعدها الadjectives وبعدها الadverbs. Look, we need to use water more efficiently. And this is the adverb form. And this is the noun form. We don't need it over here, of course. You would always in the these types of exercises, you would find the correct answer and then a false answer that cannot be the correct one, and then one that it's partly correct or it can be correct as it can be not. So يعني تلقى حاجة صحيحة على الآخر. ما تلقى ثلاثة هذوما كما نقولوا حاجة كما حطينا shortage و availability صحاح الزوز nature اللي ما تجيش. أما احنا كي نرجعوا قبل نشوفوا لو قلنا challenge availability معناها الفات فما ما ماهيش it's not a challenge, it's not an issue. ماهوش حاجة خايبة ولا هو قالك challenge donc it's negative. فباش نختاروا availability اللي هي صحيحة أما ما تنجمش تجي لنا ماهيش في الكونتكست معناها لازمنا نختاروا shortage اللي هو negative noun. اوكي كيما كيكا معناها ديما فما كيما decreases و drops الزوز يعنيو النزول معناها كيما نقولوا النزول هبوط حاجة تنقص. rises يعني حاجة تعلى. هذه الزوز غلطين واحدة برك بس صحيحة كي تفهم إنه water demand كي فما حاجة معناها shortage of water donc ما فماش مي. علاش ما فماش مي؟ حاجة سبب بيان سور فما الطقس معناها سبب مي زادة إنه برشا عباد يطلبوا برشا مي وبرشا استعمال مي دونك هيك علاش اخترنا rises instead of drops, etc. Okay, guys, I'm sorry we couldn't take more time from you. I wouldn't take it because it's already late. So that's it with this session. Hope it was beneficial for you. I planned to cover conditional, but we couldn't. It's okay. You can take a look at it. I will just mention some I would write some notes on it. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye-bye. I wish you the best in your exams and in the finals as well. And I hope you succeed. Bye.